The broken symphony was a realm of discord, a dimension where every action created a jarring, unwanted reaction, and every attempt at harmony resulted in amplified chaos. No movement was smooth, no intention pure, no effort effortless. Here, amidst the escalating dissonance, lived Anya, a woman whose every breath was a struggle against the static of existence. She was a kinetic silencer, a rogue choreographer who sought to create moments of fluid grace in a universe determined to trip over its own feet. Her sanctuary, the null-point dance, was a space where inertia itself seemed to bend, a fragile bubble of deliberate motion in a storm of unintended consequences. Today, however, the very fabric of action was seizing, grinding to an agonizing halt. The absolute stasis had arrived. They weren't a fleet or a race, but an ever-expanding field of unyielding immobility. They were born from the cosmic fatigue of endless motion, feeding on all forms of momentum, all sparks of spontaneous action, all unguided effort. They sought to reduce all existence to a single, monolithic state of utter, overwhelming stillness, seeing movement, fluidity, and individual effort as dangerous, chaotic anomalies. They were the universe's ultimate stoppers, seeking to return all existence to a state of pure, unblemished, undeniable inertia, seeing vibrant activity and free will as sources of cosmic error. On the null-point dance's main viewscreen, Anya watched the tactical display. A vibrant, thriving civilization, the flow dancers of Aya, known for their ceaseless, fluid motions and intricate aerial ballets, simply froze. Not destroyed, but utterly overwhelmed by the sheer, unvarnished weight of their own immobility, their collective motion curdling into silent, internal paralysis. "There go the flow dancers," Anya muttered, a cold knot of kinetic dread tightening in her limbs. "They say it feels like unmoving, like your body was never truly yours." Her assistant, Twitch, a normally hyperactive insectoid alien whose multiple limbs were in constant, restless motion, now stood unnaturally still, her normally buzzing wings silent, her antennae drooping. Ma'am, my motor functions. They're stuck like I can't. Will myself to move, no point in moving at all." Her small body barely twitched, her essence draining with each passing moment of the stasis's advance. What was this thing? How did you fight an enemy that simply erased your ability to act, your capacity for effort, your very will to initiate motion? And why was humanity, a species famous for its profound capacity for pointless fidgeting, its inexplicable need for busy work, and its stubborn, sometimes terrifying, refusal to sit still even when ordered, the only one who seemed to have a chance against it? The absolute stasis was not born, it simply coalesced from the nexus of cease and desist eons ago. It was a distributed consciousness, a vast, ancient network of absolute, inescapable stillness. It perceived all forms of kinetic energy, all sparks of spontaneous action, all acts of deliberate effort, and all concepts of individual movement as a source of cosmic friction. Their singular directive was the grand stillness, to draw all existence back to ultimate, unified, undeniable inertia. They didn't destroy with force, they simply absorbed with perfect, fundamental motion crushing. Countless civilizations, once filled with vibrant movement and purposeful activity, were halted. The kinetic sculptors, beings whose entire lives revolved around creating intricate, ever-flowing living statues and dynamic architectural forms, found their very motions gently arrested. Their intricate choreographies of existence, deemed a temporary distortion of universal calm, were drawn back into the absolute stasis, their movement vanishing into cosmic immobility. Their unique, active existences became their pathway to ultimate, undifferentiated stillness. The effort makers, species who built vast societies on tireless work and fiercely determined progress, saw their very purposes simply cease to manifest. The absolute stasis embraced their forms but absorbed every unique endeavor, every distinct personal effort, leaving only inert, indifferent matter. Their enduring, purposeful forms became their pathway to absolute, unified stagnation. Each species, in its core nature, offered the absolute stasis a logical pathway to cessation. Their very concept of doing, their being something active, made them ideal candidates for reduction to nothing to do. And now, its vast, silent pull was approaching the human sector. As the stasis's nullifying field approached human colonies, the initial effects were terrifying. Not chaos or destruction, but a sense of profound absence of agency. Limbs felt heavy, thoughts became sluggish, and even the flicker of an eye felt like an unbearable effort. Every cherished goal, every future plan, every reason to initiate another action felt like a hollow lie. People looked at their own hands and felt a subtle, unnerving chill of absolute inaction. But then, the absolute stasis encountered something they couldn't simply absorb: humanity's profound, often illogical, capacity for nervous fidgeting, for sheer, blood-minded busywork in the face of futility, and for finding endless, sometimes pointless, reasons to do something even when it made no sense. Humans excelled at tapping their feet, at humming aimlessly, at constantly rearranging objects, and at engaging in a myriad of restless, seemingly meaningless motions. And in Anya's case, her entire existence was built on confronting the chaos of action, on understanding the body's subtle rebellions, and on a cynical, almost perverse, fascination with the unintended consequences of motion. Anya, Dr. Quill, the Null Point Dance's resident biomechanical philosopher, whose own carefully controlled movements were now a chaotic spasm against the encroaching stillness, shrieked. The stasis is trying to absorb our basic will to move, but it's having trouble with human restlessness. Its field is fluctuating. Anya squinted at the display. The absolute stasis was trying to absorb basic human coping mechanisms: purposeful action, deliberate effort, controlled motion. But human bodies, even when faced with the direct arresting of their will, instinctively tried to reassert new, equally irrational, and often self-defeating forms of subtle motion, or simply act as if their revealed immobility was merely a temporary inconvenience, even if the result was a terrifying, defiant mess. A crewman just felt his entire being filled with overwhelming inertia, then calmly announced, "Well, at least I can finally get to that backlog of nail-biting," and then started fidgeting furiously. "Huh," Anya grunted, a strange, grim smile touching her lips. "Never thought our inability to sit still could be so unstillable." Quill, his eyes gleaming with manic, almost terrifying excitement, a stark contrast to his previous distress, stared at the data. That's it, their weakness. The absolute stasis wants to absorb pure, fundamental inertia, but human, purposeless movement. It's so layered, so self-generating, so meaninglessly persistent in its activity, it resists fundamental absorption. It's a kinetic paradox. "You're saying our sheer, unadulterated fidgeting and twitching is our defense?" Anya asked, a desperate, almost manic laugh escaping her. "Precisely," Quill declared, his voice rising with a strange, almost joyful abandon. "They want to reduce everything to cosmic nothing-doing. We give them cosmic everything-moving, of endlessly reinvented motion. We amplify the twitch. We become the universe's ultimate unstoppable restlessness." The plan was codenamed Operation Busy Hands. Humanity would flood the absolute stasis's nullifying field not with grand gestures, but with unquantifiable, non-erasable, and defiantly aimless acts of pointless motion and chaotic fidgeting. Every human settlement, every ship, would begin purposefully performing new, contradictory, and utterly useless movements, e.g., repeatedly opening and closing doors, tapping pens, pacing in tiny circles, inventing wildly elaborate and often self-defeating ways to burn calories, and engaging in collective, shared acts of compulsive busywork. They'd cultivate a universe of constantly shifting, utterly baseless, yet terrifyingly persistent, kinetic noise. They'd create pseudo-motion storms of pure, unerasable activity that generates more activity. The goal: to generate so much unsolvable kinetic and conceptual static that the stasis's absorption algorithms shattered. The absolute stasis's central nullification point, a vast, silent vortex of primordial pull, was now directly engulfing the core of the human sector, its field beginning to strip away perceived agency itself. Its presence promised ultimate, peaceful immobility. Then humanity's counterwave hit. It wasn't a blast. It was an overwhelming flood of human-made anti-stillness. Millions of individuals simultaneously creating massive waves of new, and often terrible nervous habits, inventing new and often pointless ways to occupy their hands and feet, and engaging in massive, shared, fidgeting marathons with purely absurd outcomes. Ships started broadcasting streams of chaotic, randomized impulses that were pure, unadulterated, constantly shifting, purposeless motion, deemed essential life force by their human creators. Scientists forgot principles of efficiency, then stumbled upon new, often less practical but utterly unpredictable, theories based on pure, unadulterated kinetic chaos. Humans, who had perfected the art of simply not being able to sit still, unleashed a torrent of cosmic inertia that generates more movement. The absolute stasis convulsed. Their absorption algorithms, made to identify and halt fundamental motion, screamed. It tried to categorize this incoming data to find its essential, single point of stillness. But there was none. It was pure, unadulterated, uniquely itself fabricated, purposeless movement. It was like trying to stop a waterfall with a sigh. Error. Self-IGNEITING restlessness detected. No INERTIABLE form. System overload. Indefinably fidgety. Avoid sector. Unstoppable chaos. The absolute stasis, whose very being was perfect immobility and absolute stillness, could not compute the utterly restless. It could not assimilate what actively resisted being halted, or simply recreated its own arbitrary kinetic noise. It could not nullify a species that stubbornly made up new ways to move when old ones were absorbed, choosing chaotic, joyful motion over sterile stillness. With a final, silent shriek of algorithmic despair, the stasis recoiled. Their vast, shimmering void flickered wildly, then pulsed and shrank, collapsing into a storm of raw, uncategorized energies. It did not disappear. It simply disengaged, its perfect immobility shattered by the sheer, unyielding restlessness of humanity. It retreated from the human sector, classifying humanity as unhaltable variant. Extreme fidgeting risk. The cosmic pressure lifted. The broken symphony, though touched by the absolute stasis's chilling calm, now hummed with the messy, beautifully chaotic noise of human motion. Anya slumped against the console, exhausted but with a strange, almost proud smirk on her face. Twitch, her multiple limbs slowly regaining their frantic motion, was already trying to convince herself that constant, pointless activity was the true path to enlightenment. They couldn't handle us just. Not being able to sit still, Captain, Twitch chitted, a genuine, if slightly unnerving, smile on her face, her wings buzzing with renewed, if aimless, purpose. Who knew? Humanity was safe. But the cost was subtle. The galaxy now viewed humanity as the restless ruckus, forever seen as a wildcard, stubbornly clinging to its unique quirks and spontaneous acts of pointless motion, incapable of fitting into streamlined galactic designs. Other species, while grateful for their salvation, often kept their distance, finding human kinetic behavior bafflingly illogical and resistant to any objective analysis. Humans, in turn, found themselves grappling with a heightened sense of their own raw, unpredictable ability to create motion from inertia, sometimes struggling to discern purposeful action from nervous habit, forever paying the price for their stubborn refusal to be perfectly still. Quill, his eyes gleaming with new theories about the fundamental nature of free will, looked up. "I've theorized a new form of interstellar travel. Instead of calculated trajectories, what if we just fidget our way there?" Anya blinked, then managed a tired, knowing smile. "Perfect, Quill, absolutely perfect. Somewhere in the void, the absolute stasis probably just overloaded again."